Part 2 of why must it come down? The next question you can see is, if you wanted to be able to sell 250 shirts, what price should you charge? Well, remember, that takes us back now to the price equation. This equation tells you you should sell the shirts for whatever you get when you plug 250 into the price equation. And if you work that out, plus 150, if you work that out, you end up getting $137.50. Next question is to interpret the slope and the y-intercept. Well, right here, the y-intercept, remember the x-axis means number of shirts you can sell, and the y-axis means the price you sell them for. So the y-intercept, or the 0.0150, means that if you want to sell 0 shirts, you should charge $150 for each one. Now, of course, it makes more sense if you talk about it the other way around. Namely, if you charge $150 for each shirt, you'll sell 0 of them. Then the slope tells you that the slope being negative 0.05 means the same thing as negative 0.05 divided by 1. So that means that for every 1 you go to the right, you go down 0.05. For every 1 you go to the right, you go down 0.05. For every 1 more shirt you want to sell, you reduce the price by 5 cents. Want to sell 1 more shirt, reduce the price by 5 cents. Want to sell 1 more shirt, reduce the price by 5 cents. So that's what the negative 0.05 means. Now let's go on to what the price equation is generally used for, and that is to figure out how to get the maximum revenue or the maximum profit, amount of money you bring in, or the amount of money you get to take home. And maybe we should think about the difference first between those two. Revenue, which is generally called R of X, means the total amount you bring in before you worry about paying the bills. Your profit, see down here, is your revenue minus cost, is what you get to take home. What's left after you pay the bills? What is left after bills? Okay, so first we'll figure out revenue, and it's a very logical equation. Revenue equals the number of shirts you sell. Well, in this case, it's in general, you would say revenue is the number of things you sell multiplied by the price per item. In this case, the number we sell, we're talking about the number of shirts you sell multiplied by the price you charge per shirt. Well, X is the variable that represents the number we sell. The price per shirt, we already said, was negative 0.05 times the number you want to be able to sell plus 150. So we distribute, get negative 0.05 x squared plus 150x, and that is our revenue equation. But really, revenue isn't nearly as important as profit. What you really want to know is how much money will you get to take home after you pay your bills. So if you're given the cost equation, and you know or are given the revenue equation, you can find the profit equation by taking the revenue. So we'll talk about the profit. We take the revenue, which is the total amount we brought in, negative 0.05 x squared plus 150 x, the total amount we bring in, then pay the bills. So you have to take out of the money you bring in everything you have to pay out, which is your cost. which in this case I'm just giving you as 25x plus 50,000. So once all the smoke clears, you do the algebra, you get that the profit equation is negative 0.05 x squared plus 125x minus 50,000. But now I want you to sketch it. We know that it's going to turn out to be a parabola. Let me write it here again. Equation is p of x is equal to negative 0.05 x squared plus 125x minus 50,000. Unfortunately, it's not in the form that we're used to. If we had an equation that looked like this, a times the quantity x minus h squared plus k, we'd say, well, I know it's a parabola. The h is telling you the left-right shift. The k is telling you the up-down shift. Unfortunately, this equation isn't in that form. A little bit later, I'll tell you about how to put it in that form by completing the square, but now I'm just going to show you the quick and dirty method. For the quick and dirty method, you have to recall that since this is a quadratic equation, we can say that a is equal to the number in front of the x squared. We can say b is the number in front of the x. And that's actually all we will need this time. The vertex, the x-coordinate of the vertex, we can always find by dividing negative b by 2a. Okay, so in this case, that is negative 125 divided by negative 0.05, and that turns out to be 1250. Come on. Now, in order to find the y-coordinate of the vertex, I plug that 1250 back in for those two x's. If I do that, the number I get is 28,125. Okay, that's the vertex. The y-intercept is always easy to find, almost always easy to find. You always find the y-intercept by plugging in 0 for x. If I plug in 0 for x, I get negative 50,000. So it looks like the graph I gave here wasn't quite long enough. I won't be able to draw it to scale. But there, I'll say this is the y-intercept, negative 50,000. The vertex is the point 1250. 28,125. So I'll put the vertex right there. I know that parabolas are symmetric around the axis of symmetry. So if I draw a vertical line through the vertex, I know that the left side of the graph, which looks like that, should be going through the y-intercept, and the right side of the graph are symmetric around that line. And I have a graph that looks something like that. Now, in order to find the x-intercepts, that'll be a little bit harder. There are two ways to go about it. One is just by using the quadratic formula. So we already said that a was equal to negative 0.05, that b is equal to 125. We can say that c is equal to negative 50,000. And we can put all of that into the quadratic formula, which is x is equal to negative b, negative 125, plus or minus the square root of, and I'm running out of space, b squared, 125 squared, minus 4 times negative 0.05 times c, negative 50,000, run out of room, all over 2 times negative 0.05. it turns out I will do this arithmetic and I will get my x-intercepts as being 2,500. 2,000, 0, and 500, 0. Those are the two x-intercepts. Let's think about what this means. What's going on here? Well, here's the y-intercept. If the x-axis means the number of things you make and sell, the y-axis means your profit, then this point, 0, negative 50,000, means that if you make and sell 0 shirts, your profit will be negative 50,000. You will lose $50,000. Does this make any sense to you? Okay, now if you start making and selling shirts, your profit will start to increase. For a little while, it's still negative. When you get to this point, which is called the break-even point, that is the x-intercept of 500, 0. That means if you make and sell 500 shirts, your profit will be 0. Now, that doesn't sound great, but it's an awful lot better than having a profit of negative 50,000. Then, after you start making and selling more than 500, you do have a positive profit. Your profit will keep increasing until you've gotten to the point where you are making and selling 1,250 shirts. Now, after that, if you make and sell more than that, it appears, according to this graph, that your profit starts decreasing. Why is it going down? Why must it go down? Why do you get a maximum profit here? And why does making and selling more things make your profit start to go down?